So welcome everybody. Good to see you here today. We apologize for the technical difficulties. And I'm Mickey Feldman-Simon. I am the founder of I Am Back at Work. I will tell you more about myself in just a moment. I'm excited to have Mary Sheen here with us today to talk about bypassing your inner critic in public speaking. But before we get started, I want to make sure that everybody can navigate their GoToWebinar control panel. So your webinar panel may look like the image on the right where it is closed up, or the image on the left where it is expanded. And to open and close it, you just click on the orange arrow underneath. Mary, we don't see any, that it's back. And so you click on the orange arrow to open and close the webinar panel. You can also move it out of the way if it's obstructing your view by just clicking anywhere at the top and just dragging it out of the way. We will also have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Please click on the questions bar and then type in your questions in the blue rectangle underneath, and we will address all of your questions at the end of the webinar. Also, Mary will be interacting with you throughout the webinar and asking you questions. Feel free to type in the answers in the questions bar as well. A little bit about me. I'm the founder of I'm Back at Work. I'm also a career and executive coach. I'm a mum of two, a 20-year-old and a 25-year-old. As you hear from my accent, I am an Israeli, Australian American, and I have worked in all those three continents, taken multiple career breaks to move continents, to take care of my kids when they were young, take care of my aging parents. I've done it all. Successfully returned to the workforce after each one of those pauses. And I started I'm Back at Work really with the mission of helping other women return to the workforce, succeed, remain in the workplace, regain their confidence and independence. As a career and executive coach, I love working with women and men in transitions, whether it is returning to the workforce or trying to work out the next best career path for them. And as executive coach, I love working with high potential managers, CEOs on really unleashing their full-on potential and helping them thrive in the workplace. A lot of my work is helping people both on the personal and professional level. I'm a big believer we are that same person that we bring into work, that we are at home, and the skills and techniques that I work with people really influence both aspects of their lives. So now I'm going to pass it on to Mary. Mary is amazing. When I heard her speak, I had to have her come and speak before you as well. Mary was that shy computer programmer who did not dare speak too much in group meetings. And from that, she became a world champion public speaking expert. So I'm so excited to have Mary here with us today. I'm going to pass it on to Mary, and I'm going to turn off my video camera so that we can concentrate on Mary and the presentation. Mary, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mickey, for having me. It's great to hear that fellow Australian accent. So you can hear me and you can see me, yes?
I can. I believe that other people can as well. And if not, feel free to communicate with me in the questions panel.
Awesome. I'm assuming that you can because I can actually see myself on volume. All right. So guys, thank you so much for attending this session, Bypass Your Inner Critic in Public Speaking, How to Speak Up Without Feeling Like an Imposter. So if you are here, and I've given many webinars, and if you're here, I suspect that there's a reason why you're here. And so as I go through these common top 3 reasons why people come to my webinars and my workshops, I want to ask you to see for yourself which one of these reasons resonate with you, and there could be more than one. So you're here because you want to use speaking in your career, because you want to be recognized through your ability to speak. You want to be seen as valuable. You want to get promoted. How many of you would love to get promoted? And you want to make more money. How many of you, would it be okay with you if you made more money? Go ahead. And this is going to be a very interactive session. So I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions. So feel free to type into the text box that Mickey was talking about in the questions area that you can interact with me, and Mickey will help me with what you say in there, okay? The second reason, maybe you're terrified of speaking and you've had it up to here, you've had enough. You don't want to be terrified anymore because you just want to be comfortable in your own skin. Or you want to be able to speak with even more confidence, okay? So whatever level you're at, you're tired of pretending. How many times I work with a lot of people, and this is what happens. Tell me if you can resonate with this, is showing up feeling anxious and nervous inside, but on your face, you're pretending to be confident, smiling, you're putting up like a front like you're confident, but inside you're not. You have self-doubts and you're questioning yourself, right? And you're tired of doing that. You don't want to have to pretend anymore. You want to feel as confident as you look. And you're tired of holding yourself back. Now, I choose this image very specifically, very intentionally, because there's this lion behind a cage, okay? So all of you that are on this call have gifts and you have value that you can contribute, and somehow you hold yourself back and you are tired of holding yourself back. You want to just unleash your energy and your gifts, just like that lion when the cage door is opened, right? And so therefore speaking with more confidence will help you do that. And also you want to be just free to express yourself. You know, whatever's on your mind, you just want to have the ability to just say what's on your mind and be fully self-expressed. So based on what I just shared with you, I'm curious to know, why are you here? Go ahead and type into the chat box, the questions box. Why are you here? And there's no right or wrong here. I'm just curious to know and find out a little bit more and have you think a little bit more about why you are here. Mickey, you're going to have to tell me what people are typing because I can't see what they're typing here.
Yes. So we have multiple of wanting my voice heard and build my confidence and move up in my career. I think that's the thing. But the confidence thing, and we have 1 and 3, if you remember what 1 and 3 were.
1 and 3, yeah. So
Yes.
in your career and speaking with more confidence. Thank you. That gives me a
Right.
little bit
I think
clearer.
that's quite a theme that we're hearing, and thank you for sharing, everyone.
Yes, thank you for sharing, everyone. So I want to acknowledge you for being here, and therefore, just for being here, I want to give you a gift. So Mickey, if you could post this link into the text box so that people can click on it. And what this link is a summary, 2-page summary of my past 15 plus years experience of working with so many people, the most common inner critic voices. And think of this as a cheat sheet as to how to bypass your inner critic. We'll go through some of the details today, but this will be a great sheet for you to have with you so that you can really use it to the maximum advantage and use it as a cheat sheet. So thank you so much for posting that into the chat so people can click on it. And I highly encourage you to download that because it is very valuable information. So here's the deal, guys. I now have about 40 minutes left with you. And that's not a lot of time. I know it says 60 minutes, but we had some technical issues at the beginning. So I want to honor your time. So we have about 40-ish minutes left, okay? And I promise you that I'm going to give you as much as I can during these 40 minutes, but it is only 40 minutes, okay? So I'm going to tame your expectations. You may not walk out of here after 40 minutes and suddenly you're an amazing speaker. Suddenly you have 10 times the confidence, okay? That's not going to be realistic. So that's why at the end of this 40-minute session, as much as I'm going to give you, I want to give you an invitation and give you a way of continuing to work with me so that you can continue this process. And I think you'll be very happy with that invitation. So make sure you stay till the end. My next question for you is, what is your biggest challenge in public speaking? Again, there's no right or wrong. Go ahead and type into the text box, what is your biggest challenge in public speaking? There's no right or wrong.
I'll give people a moment to just type that in. What will people say?
Mm,
Will I say the right thing?
got it.
Ready
Thank
for
you for
more?
sharing that. Anything else?
Sure. Getting too deep too fast.
Mm, got it. Okay, thank you. Thank you for
I'd say maybe that's around, and correct us if we're not, Laura, maybe too much detail and maybe rushing through the presentation. Correct
mm-hmm.
me if I'm wrong, Laura, if that's not what you mean.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And again, there's no right or wrong, and you may have more than just one, but that gives me a high level idea of where you're at and where your challenges are. So now I want to share a little bit about my journey. You heard a little bit from Mickey, but I want to just take you back. This is me 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, and when I thought bangs on me were fashionable. I was a computer programmer, and I used to hide behind my desk. I was extremely self-conscious and really timid and not willing to speak up. So I'd be in my first job out of college, I was a computer programmer, and there would be these team meetings, and the team meetings might be 1 hour long, sometimes 90 minutes long, and the whole time I would not say a thing. And when I come out of the meeting, I'd feel really disappointed in myself because I knew I had things to say, but I just couldn't get out of my own way to be able to say those things. And I was extremely socially awkward. Um, at work, we would have these, and you may be able to relate to these social outings like lunch and pizza and these different wine and cheese evenings where the people of the organization would come together and mingle with the senior management, with each other, right? Whenever those events happened, suddenly I was on a vacation day. Suddenly I had a family emergency. Suddenly I wasn't available. Suddenly I just would avoid these situations simply because I just didn't know how to speak to people. That's where I began. Okay. Now, many years later, in over a decade ago, in 2009, I competed in the World Championship of Public Speaking, which is a contest. And out of 25,000 contestants from 14 countries, I came in second place. I've now been a transformational public speaker and trainer and coach for many, many years. And to date, I have trained over 15,000 people from 30 cities around the world. I'm also the best-selling author of this book, Present Yourself in Public Speaking, Tell Your Inner Critic to Shut Up and the Real You to Speak Up. I'm the founder of the Shine Mentorship Program. I've been featured in many publications, podcasts, TV, radios, and I'm also a TEDx speaker. I tell you this about myself, this journey, so that you can see that transformation, I'm evidence that transformation is possible. So when you look at this picture, I chose this image very deliberately. There's a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, right? So it undergoes this process called the chrysalis process when it's in the cocoon. And within the cocoon, it goes through this process where it melts, it liquefies, literally, and then comes out a butterfly. So when you look at these two creatures, is it the same creature? Can you say, oh, wow, the butterfly, it was the same creature as the caterpillar? Well, it's the same creature, but who underwent a process of transformation. And that's what I want for you. When I look back at myself 20 plus years ago, I do not recognize myself. Okay. So that's what this process is about. For the remainder of the time that we have together today, I'm going to be sharing with you the inside out system to speaking powerfully. I'm going to share with you 3 most common mistakes that people make in terms of becoming a better speaker and being able to present themselves and being able to really represent the power that they have, represent the confidence that they have, the value that they can bring to the table through the communication. And then what to do instead of those 3 mistakes, what are 3 principles to follow instead? Okay. So my next question to you is, what does public speaking mean to you? We hear it a lot, public speaking, public speaking. What does it mean to you? And there's no right or wrong answer. What does it mean to you? Go ahead and type into the text box. What does public speaking mean to you?
Going to wait and see what people are adding here.
Again, there's no right or wrong. What does it mean to you?
Talking in front of an audience, having a message.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Please share with us. What does it mean to you? Presenting to a group?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Awesome, guys.
talking in meetings?
Meetings, yeah. All valid answers. Thank you. I wanted to get your wheels turning as to what public speaking is. And the reason I asked that question is because there are actually many forms of public speaking. Typically, when people hear that term, public speaking, they think of, someone in front of the room, maybe on a stage with a PowerPoint in the background behind a lectern. That's typically what people think of, but there are actually many forms of public speaking. Meetings. Someone already mentioned that, meetings, right? Whether it's in person or nowadays on Zoom, in a virtual environment, there are many, many meetings. How many of you, ever since the COVID pandemic, you've been attending a lot of virtual meetings, right? And that is the typical,
Oh boy, yes.
right? That's the typical way that we meet these days, and that is a form of public speaking. Whether you are a person attending the meeting and you're chiming in to share something, or whether you're the person who's facilitating the meeting or running the meeting, it's your meeting, you called this meeting. It doesn't matter which role you play within the meeting. You're going to be required to speak at some point, right? So that's a form of public speaking. How about job interviews? How many of you have ever attended a job interview where there was more than one person interviewing you? There was a panel of people interviewing you. How many? That should be typical these days, right? That is a form.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a form of public speaking, right? How about advocating for yourself? Hey, boss, here are the projects that I want to work on. Hey, boss, I feel like it's time for negotiating my salary. Hey, boss, XYZ, right? So advocating for yourself, the ability to do that comes in the form of public speaking. I'll give you a quick example. I have my own business now, of course, but many years ago, I was working for an organization, and I've been working on my public speaking skills for many, many years. And I got to the point where I was confident enough. I called my boss at the time, the senior director, into a conference room to have a one-on-one meeting with me. And so here we are sitting in the meeting, and she says to me, okay, Mary, you called this meeting. What is it about? I said, well, I've been working for this company for 3 years now, and I feel that it's time for a promotion. And of course, I'd done my homework, so I brought out my piece of paper, and here is why. Here are all the reasons why I feel that I've earned a promotion. I've worked on these projects. Here's what I brought to the table. I went through the list. And she's quiet. She listens to me, and then she's quiet for a very long time. So I'm thinking, I wonder what she's thinking. Finally, she speaks up and she says, you know what, Mary, you're right. Guess what? I got to write my own job description. I got to choose my own job title, and I got a $20,000 raise just because I asked. So that is one of the powers of public speaking. I share this example with you to just open your eyes as to it's not necessarily about becoming a better speaker. It's what can you do with it once you are a better speaker, once you are confident in your speaking skills, once you are confident in advocating for yourself. What can you do with that skill? Does that make sense? How about selling yourself? How many of you have ever had to sell yourself? Maybe at the job interview, right? Or selling a product or a service, right? It doesn't matter what it is you're selling. How many of you have ever had to sell an idea, right? That's a form of selling yourself. And and you tell me if this resonates with you. In working with so many people are not comfortable in selling themselves, okay? And if you are not comfortable in selling yourself, here's what I would say is I would encourage you to stand in your own value. If you're not comfortable in selling yourself, it probably means you're not standing in your own value. Okay. So that is also a form of public speaking. Connecting one-on-one with people, clients, potential clients, co-workers, employers, employees, or your peers, right? Doesn't matter what kind of one-on-one connection it is, but the more connection you have with people, with your ability to communicate, the more trust you will build, and that can get you a long way in your life if people trust you. So again, there are many forms of public speaking, but however, there's one thing that all of these forms of public speaking have in common. And what is that? What do you think? Take a guess. What is the one thing that all of these forms of public speaking have in common? Okay, the answer that I'm looking for is people. Doesn't matter the medium.
Have confidence as some of the other responses as well.
Yeah. So really, it doesn't matter the medium, right? Whether it's a virtual, whether it's in person, what format, what environment, what format, as we just went through. At the receiving end of your communication is a person, are people, right? And that is the commonality. So here's a GMAT survey that asked top employers to rank 25 skills in order of priority of what they look for in job candidates when they're having job candidates come in for an interview. And guess what came out on top? Oral communication. And right near the top, presentation skills. Now that's not a surprise to me at all, because think about this. If you are sitting in that interview chair, whether it's an internal promotion or going for a new position, new job, you're sitting in that interview chair, that means you've already qualified on paper, right? That's why you're sitting in that interview chair. However, so is everybody else who's going to be sitting in that same interview chair. They're also qualified on paper. So how are you going to separate yourself? How are you going to distinguish yourself from all the other candidates? Your ability to communicate, your ability to present yourself, your ability to be articulate when you say things, your confidence level, your energy level, what you bring to the table in terms of the way you contribute verbally, right? All of this is going to help you distinguish yourself from the rest of the crowd. My next question to you is, what is one mistake that you've made in your attempt to become a better public speaker? Go ahead and type into the text box, what's one mistake that you've made in your attempt to become a better public speaker? I'd love to hear these
That is
answers.
quite a question. Let's see what people have to say. No, responses just said, this one I think really gets you thinking about what mistakes you've made. Not thinking enough about the audience.
Okay.
Not listening enough.
Anything else?
Anything else? Too much perfectionist to practice more.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. So here's the reason I asked that question, because here is the number one mistake that I see made most in people's attempt to become a better public speaker, including my own journey. Okay. The number one mistake is this: doing what you've always done. Doing what you've always done. Okay.
Love it.
And so how I'll put it to you another way. This is one of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So what do we do instead? How can we combat this mistake? Well, this is where you follow the first principle instead of doing this. Be stretchy to grow. Okay, so I can't see you guys, but right where you're sitting, I want you to stretch, like literally stretch your arms out like this, stretch. As a physical mnemonic device to remind yourself you need to stretch in order to grow. Okay, so here's a visual way of putting this. Okay, here's you in the middle. So this zone around you, we're going to call the comfort zone. Okay, this is where you're very comfortable in your speaking, you're quite comfortable there. This zone just outside of your comfort zone is what I refer to as your learning zone. Okay, so your learning zone is where you're outside of your existing comfort zone. So you feel discomfort, you feel maybe anxiety or nerves, or you feel uncomfortable. However, you also understand that in order to grow and learn, you have to feel a little bit uncomfortable, at least a little bit uncomfortable, in order for you to grow. So this is tolerable. This is your tolerable range of discomfort. That is where the learning takes place. Anything outside of the learning zone is what I call the panic zone. Okay, panic zone. So the problem, here's what I'm saying. You want to get outside of your comfort zone. Don't stay in your comfort zone. You've got to be in your learning zone in order for you to grow. And one of the problems is why people don't leave their comfort zone is because they're in their comfort zone and they're imagining themselves in their panic zone. So therefore they don't do anything, right? And what I'm saying is you don't have to be in your panic zone, but you have to be in your learning zone. Otherwise, no learning is going to take place and you're not going to grow. So another way of saying this is you, my friends, are your biggest asset. You are your biggest asset. For example, here's this number line, right, between 0 and 10. Let's say right now you're at a skill level number 3, let's say, and then you get hit with a number 6 problem. And that might look different. Let's say it's a presentation. You're on a topic that you need to research about, but you don't quite know anything about yet, or in front of people that you might feel nervousness about. Is that problem going to appear bigger than you right now, or is it going to appear like smaller than you? What do you think? It's going to appear big to you, right? It's a rhetorical question. Yeah. However, let's say you work on your skill and you build your skill, you build your toolbox, you build your confidence, and now you're at a skill level of number 9. So this is you now. You're at a number 9 skill level, and then you get hit with that same number 6 problem. Now, is that 6 problem going to appear big to you or small? No worries, I can handle it. No worries, as I say in Australia, right, Mickey? Yeah. Of course, it's going to be no worries for you because you have grown your skill level, okay? And that's what I'm saying. You are your biggest asset. This is one of my favorite sayings from Keith Cunningham. Hell is meeting the person you could have been. Have you guys ever heard of this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki? The rich dad is Keith Cunningham, okay? And he says, hell is meeting the person you could have been. So I'm going to let that sink in for a second. That's why you are your biggest asset. So principle number 1, just to give you an example, so you're not saying, right, great for you, Mary. I'm going to give you an example of a real live person who has applied this principle, be stretchy to grow, and what happened, okay? So Mercedes is a scientist. She's one of my clients. When she came to me, here's how she was. And these are her words, not mine. She had a debilitating fear of presentations, and she would constantly self-sabotage. So she would avoid speaking in meetings. She would avoid presentation. She would avoid opportunities to speak up. She would avoid leading meetings, avoid, okay? So she applied this principle. We worked together. She stretches in her learning zone. She stretched learning zone, stretched it with my guidance. Now she feels uplifted. She has the tools and clarity and sound internal belief. She now feels excited when she has an opportunity to speak, not panic. And presentation opportunities are coming her way, left, right, and center, right? And that's what can happen when you start to stretch. And it's not a coincidence because the more she started speaking up, the more she was visible, the more people recognized her contribution, and the more opportunities were presented to her. And, you know, even in the last 2-3 months, let's say, she had multiple speaking opportunities. She's presented to a department head, she's presented to her boss's boss, and recently she was asked to be on the committee member of the diversity inclusion in her company, right? That would never have happened if she had kept quiet. So that's what I'm saying. If you apply, be stretchy, opportunities and doors will open for you that weren't there before, simply because you're more visible, because you are speaking up. Mistake number 2, which brings me to mistake number 2. And what is that? Allowing your inner critic to hold you back. Allowing your inner critic to hold you back. So what should we do instead? We should apply principle number 2, which is bypass your inner critic. Okay. So here's the problem. Here's what's missing, okay? So this is the public speaking jigsaw puzzle. It comes directly out of my book, and I created this from my many years of experience of not just learning to be a better speaker, but also teaching it, okay? So take a look at these 5 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, okay? If you master all 5 of these pieces, you will be a masterful speaker. So let's just do high level, take a look at each of these pieces, okay? Content. So what might be included in content? This is, what are you going to be talking about? And this doesn't matter if it's a 1-minute share, or you're sharing for, sentences within your job interview, or you're creating a 45-minute formal presentation, or you're speaking up at a meeting and you're contributing 30 seconds. Doesn't matter how long it is. Content is, what are you going to be saying? What are you going to be talking about? Okay. What is your point? What is your message? Do you even have a message? Right? How many of you have ever watched somebody talk or listened to somebody speak, and then at the end of it you go, so, well, what's the point? Like, what am I supposed to do here? What is your message? Does it flow logically? Is there a structure to it? Are you using case studies? Are you using examples to bring it to life for people? Do you have stories? Are you engaging? Do you have interaction? All of this. Are you using a PowerPoint? All of these things go into content. And then the bottom right corner is delivery. So if I was to ask each of you to present right now for like 30 seconds each, I can guarantee you that each of you are going to have a different delivery style. So because you have a different voice, because you have a different personality, you have a unique gift that you bring to the table. What is your value? All of these things, and especially now with online, we're reduced to a box, right? Physically a box on Zoom or whatever the platform you're using is, right? And so there is a limited space, but you can always dial up, dial down. You can expand your range of your delivery tools if you know what they are, okay? So far we've covered 2 pieces. And this is the right-hand side of the jigsaw puzzle, the outer world, what I refer to as the mechanics. Traditionally, most public speaking, 99% of public speaking education and coaching out there refers to content delivery, content delivery. For example, have you ever heard, you have to use your voice, you have to project your voice, you have to have eye contact, right? All these things are to do with content and delivery. And when I started teaching, I did the same thing. I taught the way I was taught, but no matter how prepared my clients were, no matter what a subject matter expert they were on their topic, they were still nervous. They were still not confident. They were still. So I knew that there was another component that was not being addressed. And that's when I reverse engineered my own process and recognized, hey, guess what? There's a whole other side to the public speaking jigsaw puzzle. And that's this side, the mindset, the internal world, the inner world, the internal world of who, please? Of you, my friends. The message you're sharing is coming through you. What you're saying is coming through you. So your mindset is the filter that's going to either enhance what you're saying or hold back in your confidence. Mindset meaning things like, do you believe in yourself? Do you feel like you're worthy of the message? Do you feel you're qualified to be there? What are those inner critic voices saying that's preventing you from really owning your confidence? Okay, so there's 2 pieces here. The conscious thoughts, which are your conscious thoughts that you have and you know you have them. And then this bottom left piece, which is my favorite piece to work with people, your unconscious thoughts, which are your blind spots. What thoughts are in your outside of your conscious view that you're not aware that they're there, that actually is holding you back? I have a 2-day boot camp, okay, where I go intensely. Day 1, we deep dive into the internal world on unlocking your mindset. And then day 2, we come back and we address the mechanics. They're both equally important. You need to have both sides in order to be a masterful presenter, okay? And we have a lot of fun too. And by the way, it's okay for you to have fun when you're speaking. The more fun you have, the more actually the audience will be engaged with you, okay? And of course, now we have it on virtual as well as hybrid, which is in-person social distance with online. So now I'm going to ask you a next question, which is, what is your biggest strength in public speaking? Go ahead and type in the chat, in the text box. What do you feel your biggest strength is in public speaking? It might be a strength that you know you have, or somebody else has given you the feedback. Mickey.
Let's wait for people to put things in. A great message. Good presence.
Wonderful.
organization and content, but often too much content.
Okay, got it.
This
Thank
is
you.
where you're saying basically some strength can become a weakness, right? So having good content, but presenting it in the right way.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Who found, I'm just curious, who found that, well, just this is a rhetorical question. Did you find this question a bit challenging to answer? And if the answer is yes, then you're going to find this next question really challenging. Okay. Can you list 50 of your strengths in public speaking? What comes up for you? And that's an actual question. What is coming up for you right now, if as I'm asking you this question? What did you notice? What are you noticing when I ask that question? Go ahead and type in the text box. There's no right or wrong. Can you name 50 of your public speaking strengths?
I have to say my reaction straight away was, oh, 50 seems
50.
overwhelming.
It is right. Thank you.
The overwhelm.
Overwhelm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good, good. That was I was very intentionally asking you that question because I wanted you to notice what came up for you, what observations came up for you, what commentary came up for you, what feelings are there
50
any?
is a lot. 50 is a lot is a theme that's running here in the comments.
Right, it is a lot. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna say. All right, and why? By the way, why did I ask you about your strengths? Why did I ask you to list 50 strengths? And what has it got to do with your inner critic? Here's what I'm gonna say. What I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna introduce you to someone that you've known for a very long time, but you may not realize that this person exists. However, if you get to know this person and build a relationship with this person, it can make all the difference between you showing up as timid, you showing up not as your most confident self, and you showing up as your most powerful self, here to deliver the gifts that you're here to deliver. Okay. And this person is called your little voice. So I'm going to now, you might have heard of it as referred to as your internal dialogue, this incessant chatter that's happening in your head. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet now. Please meet your little voice now. There's nothing wrong with your audio. I'm just not saying anything right now because I want you to hear it. Now, if that little internal chatter in your voice is in your head is saying, what little voice? Is this little voice? Maybe that's not. Is that it? That, my friends, is the internal chatter that I'm talking about. And now a question for you. When you are outside of your comfort zone, you're outside of your existing comfort zone, that internal chatter, that little voice in your head, is it mostly saying empowering things, like positive things? Like, you go girl, yeah, you tell them. Or perhaps is it saying a little bit more negative, something that's a little bit more disempowering? What is your experience when you're outside of your comfort zone? Here is what I've noticed that many people tell me. Tell me if you resonate with this. Is negative. When you're outside your comfort zone, that internal chatter is usually negative. This
Definitely.
other people, right. So here's some examples. Amy Poehler, she's a comedian. She used to be on Saturday Night Live, and in her autobiography book called Yes Please, she calls it the demon voice. She says, when I look into the mirror, the demon voice starts speaking to me. You don't look good in that. Who are you to be wearing that? Right? That's the demon voice. That's the little voice. Dr. Brene Brown, who's very well known now in the corporate space, generally speaking, she's very well known now. Her TEDx talk's one of the most watched TEDx talks. She calls them the gremlin voices. Gremlin voices. I can't see you. I don't know how old you guys are. Just in case you don't know what a gremlin is, it was a movie from the 1980s, and there were these cute little creatures, but if you fed them after midnight, they turned into these gremlins. This is what a gremlin is. That is an analogy that I use because when you're outside your comfort zone, usually that's what the inner critic voices are saying, something disempowering, trying to scare you, trying to keep you in your safety zone, not to take risks. And so how is the inner critic relevant to public speaking? Well, it's the pink elephant in the room. Someone wrote, when my book first came out in 2016, someone wrote this. Within 2 weeks, it reached bestseller status on Amazon. And someone who wrote me a book review said this the best. He or she said, at last, someone is talking about the pink elephant that's in the room when it comes to public speaking, because nobody was addressing the inner critic voice in terms of public speaking, right? So it is the pink elephant in the room. And so what I'm saying to you, and coming back to the second principle now, remember, is to bypass your inner critic. And the key word here is bypass, okay? So not kill your inner critic, get rid of your inner critic, surgically remove your inner critic. I don't even know if that's possible. To bypass. So what does that mean? It means just like water, right? Flowing down a stream, the water's flowing down a stream and then there's this boulder in the way, there's a rock in the way. The water doesn't try and move the rock out of the way. What does it do? It just flows around it, just goes around it. And that's what I'm saying. Just like Bruce Lee said, be water, my friends. My TEDx talk is actually called The Hidden Power of Bruce Lee That We All Have. And that's what he says, be water, flow around it, okay? So how do we do that? Great, I'm going to flow around my inner critic next time. But how do we actually do that in the practical sense, right? So I'm going to give you a formula now. It's called A plus A, which will allow you to do that. So what does the first A stand for? Awareness. Awareness of what? Awareness of your little voice in real time as it's speaking to you. And once you're aware of it, the second part of the formula is action, taking action. Okay. So for example, when I was many years ago, when I was in the technology world, I'd be sitting in a team meeting and the people in the meeting, they were talking about system XYZ and system ABC. And I'm sitting there going, I have no clue what system XYZ is. And I want to ask, but the moment I'm about to ask, I hear the little voice jump in, right? And he goes, don't ask. What if you're supposed to know that already? What if, then everyone's going to know you don't know, and everyone's going to know that you're stupid. In that moment, that's what the little voice was saying to me, all right? So the first part of the formula, awareness. Oh, okay. Got it. There it is. The inner critic is speaking to me right now. The moment I'm aware of it, there's space that gets generated between me and the inner critic. It's not the truth. There's space. And within the space, now I can choose. Now I can actually choose once I'm aware of it. And what do I choose? In this example, the action is, excuse me, can someone tell me what system XYZ is? Then they tell me and I know, and I'm no longer lost. So that's how you implement this awareness plus action. Is this making sense? That is how you bypass your inner critic. So here's an example of a real life person who used this principle, applied this principle. Aisha is one of my clients. And when she came to me, this is in her words, again, she was self-conscious, timid in speaking up in meetings. And after applying this principle, bypassing her inner critic whenever it came up, she can now ignore her inner critic. These are her words. It's had a very positive impact in my life. It's woken up my drive. I now have confidence. And oh, by the way, she got a promotion. She started speaking up in meetings. She started volunteering, running meetings. Now she's got a promotion. And that's what can happen for you if you learn how to apply this principle and bypass your inner critic whenever it comes up. In case you weren't here at the beginning of this webinar, I had given a gift. So Mickey, if you could just post that link again into the text box. I have a gift for you. It's a 2-page summary, a cheat sheet of how to bypass your inner critic. And I would definitely recommend that you get that. Which brings me to mistake number 3, not being present. So what do we do instead? Learn to be present. And how do we do that? Remember the public speaking jigsaw puzzle that I shared earlier? Did you notice that there was a piece in the middle? That piece in the middle is presence. So what does stage presence mean to you? Have you ever heard of this term? When you go, oh, that person has stage presence, wow. What are some qualities What are some words that you would use to describe that person who has stage presence? Go ahead and type into the text box. When you go, that person has stage presence, what are some words you would use to describe them?
Waiting for people to type in their comments. Connecting with the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Energy.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Energy, connecting. Yep.
Comfortable speaking and connecting.
Comfortable.
Confident. Yeah,
Confident.
confident.
Absolutely. I like those words. All of those words are valid words to describe the output of someone who has stage presence. Okay, so let's take a look at the word presence. It comes from the word present, does it not? Present. So in terms of a timeline, present, now what does stage presence mean to you? What does the word present mean in terms of a timeline? I'm going to give away the
Now.
Yes, thank you. You hit it on the nose. Now. It means being in the now. Okay. So why is it so challenging for us to be present? Well, it's because on average, a human being speaks between 110 to 150 words per minute. However, they have the ability to listen up to 450 words per minute. So in between, there is this gap. And in the gap, when you're listening to someone speak or when you're speaking, there's space in that gap for you to start to diverge, your thoughts start to move. Have you ever heard of the term most people's number one fear is public speaking? How many of you have heard of that? It's very common, right? You hear that a lot. Well, I'm saying it's a myth. People's number one fear is not public speaking. Guess what it is? It's public judgment. So if the timeline looks like this, you're either ruminating about the past. Last time I gave the presentation, I was nervous and I was anxious. I hope I don't repeat that. So you're ruminating about the past, like that little hamster on the wheel, ruminating, thinking about the past, thinking about the past. Or you're worrying about the future, worrying about the future. Well, I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait till this presentation's over. I can't wait till this job interview's over, right? So when you're in the past, you're in the present. You're in the past, you're in the present. You're not present. So being aware of your thoughts lead to your emotions. Whatever you're thinking is going to determine how you feel. And so you want to continue to cultivate awareness. So here's a visual for you. So imagine this circle here is your mind, right? And all these thoughts are bouncing around. You want to be cultivating spacious awareness. You're aware of what you're thinking rather than you are what you're thinking. You're aware of what you're thinking. And so ultimately, you want to use your breath. Here's a tool, a breath to really anchor your presence. So to take you out of your sympathetic nervous system, flight or fight, into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is calm. And so what do? I'm going to share with you this tactical breathing. It's called tactical breathing. The Navy SEALs use this, very easy. I'm going to have you do this right now. You're going to breathe in for a count of 4. Everybody do this with me. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you breathe out for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You breathe in for a count of 4 seconds. You breathe out for a count of 4 seconds. Okay. When you do that, there's a scientific reason why. We won't go into it now, but basically it takes you out of your fight or flight response and back online your analytical brain, your rational brain, so you're no longer in that mode of fear and you can be present. So here's a quick example. One of my clients, Julian, his name is, he's a scientist, and he constantly had to be presenting his work to his co-workers. And here's what he said. Before, he would be nervous. It was all about the content and the mechanics. He would talk at people. And after applying this principle to be present, here's his experience now. I am present. I'm now connecting with people rather than talking at them. And presence makes his presentations a lot more enjoyable. Fancy that. He can actually enjoy himself. And by the way, he got a high ranked job because he focused on being present. Did you learn something? Did you get some insights? And I'm very curious to know, type into the text box, what was your biggest insight from this webinar so far? What has been your biggest insight?
Ooh, I can't wait to hear what people are writing.
What is
And as you were talking, Mary, by the way, I have to say, so we recently had, and that's recorded as well, Sarah Michelle speak to us about talking back to imposter syndrome, and she called her voice in her head Taco. She gave it a name so she could talk back to it, and when Taco would say something, she could give it she could just snip back at it and say something back. And I love the fact that she actually gave it a name. It made it sort of a little bit more real for her. And if anybody wants to watch that, then definitely you can go back and watch the recordings.
awesome?
The biggest insight, I think, not just focusing, we have here not just focusing on the content and presentation, but, you know, as you were saying, I think, Mary, that's what people are usually taught.
Exactly, exactly.
When
Thank
I
you.
when I think back to the corporate world as well, like, and a lot of workshops that we did, a lot of them really were on the content and how to present, and not really on your state of mind, exactly what you're saying, and your self-talk.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. Thank you. So, my friends, this is the tip of the iceberg. Okay. So, what is your next step? Here, well, I'm going to take a couple of questions. Well, maybe we have time for one question in just a moment because I do want to honor your time. However, before we do that, I want to invite you to a speaker breakthrough session with me. Here's how I can help you further. I've set aside one speaker breakthrough session, which is a 60-minute intimate group session on Zoom, so I can see you on video. And there are 5 spots. That's a typo. There are 5 spots, first come, first serve. And here's what we're going to do in a session. I'm going to help you become clear on what's holding you back in speaking, help you become clear on what you want in your speaking, in your career, what that looks like. And if it makes sense for us to work together, I'll show you how I can help. And here's how you can determine if this is for you or not. If you want further insights and guidance, what I've said here today makes a lot of sense to you and you want further insights and guidance, you want to get super clear on your speaking challenges, you want to have more clarity about where you're going with your speaking in your career, how it can help you, and you are committed to take action to getting your results. So like I said, there are 5 spots. Here's the link to click. Mickey, if you could put this link into the chat.
I have already.
Awesome. Usually I charge for this session. I charge $100 per person for this session, but because this organization is a non-profit, and plus I know Mickey, I'm going to give this away for free. However, I do only want to work with people who are serious. So when you click on the link, there's going to be a couple questions that I'm going to ask you so that you can answer, so I can find out more about you and to make sure that you're completely prepared when you come to the session. Okay. Before I wrap up, do we have time for any questions, Mickey?
We'll give people maybe another moment. I don't see questions. It is 1 p.m. So obviously there isn't something urgent on people's minds. So I think that we are probably good to go. And I would say, I just want to really reiterate this because I work with, in my coaching, with a lot of women who don't have the confidence, whether it is in meetings, in interviews. This really plays into so many things in your life, and Mary's the expert.
Thank you, guys. So if you do have questions, and I want to honor your time, my suggestion is come to the speaker breakthrough session, because then we can really deep dive, and then I can see you speak. I know how you speak, and then I can be in a better position to help you. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. Really, guys, the bridge between, hey, I really want to be a good speaker, and now that I am in reality a great speaker, the bridge is action. You have to take action that's outside your comfort zone. Otherwise, you're going to stay the way you are. Your level of speaking will not improve if you do not take action. But the good news is it's never too late to start. And I'll end with this, my favorite quote, Chinese proverb: the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us here today. Please feel free to take advantage of this 1 hour that Mary's so kind to provide to our audience. And I'm sure that everybody, as much as you've learned today, you'll learn more and gain more from that free session. So at this point, I think unless there's any other, I don't see other urgent points. There's just a lot of thank yous coming in. So really thank you, Mary, so much for joining us here today. There's so much that people, I think, have gained from this session today, and so much more they can learn from you. And watch Mary's TED Talk. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mary. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mickey, for inviting me, and I look forward to seeing some of you at the Speaker Breakthrough session where we can deep dive a little more. Awesome. Bye, guys.
And if you're watching the recording, by the way, just click on the link and you can get that too. Bye-bye.
Bye.